So, good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to have you here. Buongiorno a tutti. That's what the Italians say when they greet people, right? So, my name is Tom Donatelli, and I would like to welcome everyone here to our 2023 Columbus Day ceremony. I would like to thank our Scotch Plains Fanwood Unico, Scotch Plains Italian American Club, the Scotch Plains Knights of Columbus Council 5730, and our Township of Scotch Plains for organizing and sponsoring this wonderful event, which we call a celebration of Italian heritage in Scotch Plains and Fanwood. For many years, we heard essays about the journey of Columbus written by students from St. Bartholomew's Academy. In the last few years, we modified our program and listened to the stories of individual families. We heard from families who told their story about their ancestors' journeys and hardships, having come here from Mondazoli, Italy, many decades ago, even more than a century ago. This year, we will continue this tradition in a slightly different way. We will hear two essays from Scotch Plains Township students who will tell the stories of their families' journeys. We will hear about winemaking traditions, a family cooking story, and what our Italian American Club does for our community. It was 25 years ago this week, October 12th, 1998, that we unveiled our monument. Although we call it our Columbus Monument, it is truly a recognition of our own family's journeys, the hard work, the dedication, and the passion to succeed, not only of our Italian descendants, but all heritages and all ethnic backgrounds. I can honestly say, as we celebrate this Columbus Day in 2023, that our ancestors' journeys, their acts of courage, their fortitude, and their drive were no less than that of the early explorers that found this part of the world. As we look at our beautiful monument, which we can't see today because of the rain, I wholeheartedly feel that this statue represents the voyages of our people, even more so than those of Columbus. And in today's times, with what's going on in the world, I'd really like to have a little bit of a moment of silence about the tragedies that are occurring in the Middle East, in Israel and Palestine. If we could just bow our head for a few moments on that. Thank you. So if we could just please stand for a few moments, we're going to have Father Matt from St. Bart's come up and have the opening invocation.
Buongiorno a tutti. Good morning, everyone. What an honor it is to be here this morning with all of you as we celebrate our culture, our heritage, family, but also I think part of our culture and family and heritage is the faith of our fathers and our mothers, the faith of our grandparents and those who came before us. And so honoring that faith that gave us the strength and perseverance to be the men and women and the families that we are here in this local community, let us begin by placing ourselves in the presence of our loving Father. Eternal Father, we place ourselves in your loving presence, you who gave us the gifts of family, heritage, culture, and community. We ask for your blessing upon each one of us. Help us to acknowledge our roots so that in knowing our past, we may pave a way for a better future. So that in preserving all that is good, all that is true, and all that is beautiful, we may build a community based on your love. Bless us now as we honor the memory of all those who brought their rich culture of faith and family to the Americas, as we pray the prayer that is said to be the first prayer prayed by Columbus as he arrived to the New World. O Lord, eternal and omnipotent God, thou hast, by the holy word, created the heavens, the earth, and the sea. Blessed and glorified be thy name. Praised be thy majesty, who has deigned that by means of thy unworthy servant, thy sacred name should be acknowledged and made known in this new quarter of the world. And Heavenly Father, I ask that you bless each one of us here as we celebrate our past and step into a beautiful and new future. Amen.
And now we'll have Paul Raphael for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. I don't think we're going to have the Star Spangled Banner. Is that right? I have it. Oh, you have it. Okay. If you would like to stand again, we're going to play the national anthems of the United States and of Italy. Thank you. Thank you, Paul. That was a good hit there. So I'd like to just recognize a few people that are here or not here. So our president, Unico this year, Scotch Plains Fanwood, our president is Alphonse Gialinella. He's not here today. We also have a very important part of our Unico is Jerry Samuel. She's also not feeling well. She was going to be here today. Some of the other people we have from Unico is Ann Walco. She's a past president of Unico National. We have the current president of Unico National, Ralph Contini. And we have Ralph Benjavenga. He's the first vice president of Unico National.
Anthony.
Oh, I'm sorry, Anthony. That's your brother is Ralph, right? Yes. Okay, I'm sorry. So at this point, I'd like to bring up Anthony, and he'd like to say a few words about Unico. Thank you.
Buongiorno, è un onore. It's an honor to be here. And this is like my 13th year coming to this ceremony, sometimes outside, sometimes inside, but very proud to be here. And I know the history of the monument. I marched with the Unico people and also with the citizens of Scotch Plains to preserve that monument a few years ago. I was born and raised in Plainfield, but my both parents came from Italy. My father was born in Caserta, which is about 45 minutes north of Naples, and my mom's family came from Sicily. So I'm not among the Montazzoli people that from Abruzzo. I just want to say, I'll save some of this for Ralph Contini, our president, because he'll probably say more about Unico National. I was honored to be with Ralph on Thursday at the White House when Jill Biden, our First Lady, made a presentation with a private group of about 50 or 60 leaders of Italian-American organizations. And well represented. She was proud of her Italian heritage because her grandparents came from Messina, Sicily, and most people might not know that, but they were named Jacopa, and the name was changed to Jacobs. So people didn't realize that she was Italian-American. And we left politics off the table. No one in the White House spoke about politics, not the guests and not the presidential speakers. Everything was about heritage. And I was so proud to have been there. And there was music, food. I mean, we couldn't have enjoyed a better evening. And this... Yeah, I just want to say that I'll leave it where keep Italian, the language, the culture. My grandmother used to say, don't ever forget your culture, where your ancestors came from, and I do that through my children and grandchildren. And God bless each and every one of you. Vi voglio tanto bene. Baci e abbracci a tutti. Hugs and kisses. Ciao.
Thank you. Anthony. So I'd like to say hello to a few more prominent people from Scotch Plains. We have a lot of Italian families from the Mondazzolesi area. We have Camillo Angelosi. And one of my stories about Camillo is that he was one of the last immigrants to come here from Mondazzoli. I think it was in the early 1970s, Camillo, you came here? 1978. And I think Margarita was after you. So Camillo is really like the last Columbus coming over here, okay? And Camillo has played a large part in our community. He does a lot of the cooking at the club. He's always there for us for the men's dinners and, of course, for the pig roasts a lot of us have been at. We have the DiFrancesco families, Rocco the shoemaker. Hello, Rocco. And, of course, Nick the tailor. And we have Romano Del Royo. We have the Nazzardo family, and they come from a lot of different Italian heritages. And, of course, Al Sellinger, he's the assistant police chief. Is that what you call? Okay. So anyway, so now I'd like to introduce Ralph Contini, the current president of Unico National, to say a few words. Thank you.
Buongiorno, good morning all. Thank you, Tom. Welcome everybody. Mayor Lasardo, I think he's in the room, right? So township officials, Unicans, some of my colleagues are here. I extend warm greetings from Unico National, the largest Italian-American service organization in the United States of America. As I look around, I'm delighted to see such a great turnout and representation from Unico, as well as local officials and other organizations throughout this town and this area. Today we celebrate another Italian-American event in October in the great state of New Jersey, marking this now the second week of Italian Heritage Month. We're halfway there, not even halfway there. Approximately 16 years ago, when I chaired the Columbus Committee of Unico National, we initiated what was supposed to be today, a flag raising event, but I think we're inside and it's going to be just fine. We advocated doing so because it's a great way to celebrate our rich Italian American heritage throughout the entire month of October. It doesn't lock us into a specific weekend, it doesn't lock us into a specific date, and this initiative serves as a way to us proudly promote our Italian heritage. I also want to extend special thanks to the mayor, the council, and those who make this event possible, of course led by our Scotch Plains Famwood Unico chapter, as well as the Italian American Club in town here. I also want to congratulate the winners of the Columbus essay. That is such a good way to get that into the schools. I believe these students have to be 6th through 8th grade, I believe? 5th through 8th grade. That is such a great way to have them think about deeply about what it stands for. I think there's a little bit of Columbus in each one of us. Each one of us has the spirit. Being Italian immigrants, my foundation was laid by my grandfather when he came to Cliffside Park, New Jersey. The story is way too long, but he brought 6 siblings with him, my mother's siblings. My mom was left behind in Calabria just in case things didn't work out. But, unfortunately, in my own family, we were separated from my family in America, and my dad and my mom met. They married. They were supposed to come to America with the rest of the family. My dad tragically passed away, and we had to wait a few more years until we joined up the rest of the family in Cliffside Park, New Jersey. This is the year that Unico has completed 100 years of service. We have now entered our 101st year. A little background on Italian Heritage Month in New Jersey. Italian Heritage Month in New Jersey began in 2002 under the McGreevey administration. I was fortunate to work with the governor's office to make that possible, in conjunction with Italian American Heritage Month. Now, Italian American Heritage Month became an official designation in 2009, when then Governor Corzine signed it into law in October of 2009. I was very fortunate to be there. I was one of the proponents, and the governor at that time, proud to possess one of the pens that the governor used to declare Italian American Heritage Month, now in its 22nd year. We recently completed a hugely successful Columbus Day weekend and celebrations that reminded us that the Italian American community plays a significant role in preserving the legacy of Columbus Day, just like you're doing today. When I heard the story about the statue, nothing makes me prouder to know that your statue is still there and you're still paying tribute to that statue. As you know, in turbulent times, in June of 2020, those things, the statues were being attacked. Columbus's legacy was being attacked. And the mayors and councils in certain towns, they folded. They decided to go along with that short-lived, hopefully, wave that hit to take the Columbus statues down. I want to commend your mayor and your council for standing steadfast to keep that statue in town. And thank you for all of you who make it happen every year to be there to pay tribute to Columbus. Unico National takes great pride in leading the way with our steadfast theme, Columbus Day is a great American holiday. We enthusiastically support Columbus Day year after year. This year, Columbus weekend, we have a float. On our float, that's what we say. Columbus is a great American holiday. So we're happy to continue doing that. Columbus festivities embody the essence of the Italian American community and serve as a platform for us to proudly manifest our Italian heritage. As Anthony mentioned, on Thursday, this past Thursday, in the observance of Italian American Heritage Month, on a national level, right? And we also do it on county level. This past Wednesday, I was fortunate enough, I live in Bergen County. Our Bergen County executive is the very first Italian-American county executive in the history of Bergen County. He pays tribute to our county. We have approximately 200,000 Italian-Americans in our county, Bergen County. So I was able to be part of a local Italian-American Heritage Month celebration, a county Italian-American Heritage celebration, and a national celebration. I had the privilege of attending a reception hosted by First Lady Jill Biden at the White House to acknowledge and celebrate the significant contributions of Italian-Americans throughout the United States. She holds the distinction of being the first ever Italian-American to serve as the First Lady in the White House. A distinguished delegation of Italian-American leaders, including the president of UNICO, who happens to be me, representing various organizations and regions of the country, came together to this special occasion. In attendance were numerous members of UNICO, one of them being Anthony and a few other of our officers. I had the honor of presenting the First Lady Jill Biden a commemorative pin from UNICO National, the 100th Annual Convention, through her aide, but I did get a chance to shake her hand and take a picture with her. However, she wouldn't take it directly, so her aide took the pin. In conclusion, I wish to express our thanks again to your mayor and council for recognizing the work, service, and contributions made by the Italian-American community of Scotch Plains and the surrounding community. And I'm going to call up your mayor. Is he in the room? Yeah. Mayor, please come on up. I would like to present you with the same pin I presented to the First Lady in the White House. It's our commemorative 100th Annual Convention pin. So it's my honor to present it to you. So let's.
Sure.
Maria Rose.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
That's the same pin. So we went from the White House to Scotch Plains with the same pins. Anyways, I always say when I finish my speech, I always say Sempre Avanti Unico, and I say Sempre Avanti Scotch Plains, which means always forward.
So we have another connection to the White House from Scotch Plains. In my past, I have sold a machine to the White House Mason Shop in Washington, D.C., and they use that machine to cut stone and marble and granite to do repair work and renovations throughout Washington, D.C. And it was not too long ago I was actually there to do some service on that piece of equipment. And man, what a mess Washington is right now. And they really need equipment like that to keep fixing the buildings and et cetera. So I'd like to recognize a couple more of our prominent residents. All the way in the back, we have Gina Siriano. Hi, Gina. We have Jimmy Cecchio. Jim Cecchio's father was Mauro Cecchio. He was the mayor in Scotch Plains in 1959. Goes back a lot of years. Ralph Cecchio. We have Ralph Cecchio in the back. And one thing that I heard about from Ralph recently is that Ralph's grandfather owned the house on Cook Avenue where the original Italian-American Club was in 1906. And Ralph tells the story about how the mobsters from Chicago used to come here and get wine from the Italians in Scotch Plains, going way, way back. Is that a true story, Ralph? Yes, it is. So we also have Danny and Marisa Ferrara. Danny has how many uncles and cousins named Ferrara? And and we have Roberto Sorge and Laura. And of course, now we see Ben Caruso and Mark Ruggieri. Okay. So I'd like to bring up Andy McDowell. Andy is from the Scotch Plains Knights of Columbus, and he'd like to say a few words. Thank you.
Good morning. or should I say, buongiorno a tutti. So I picked that stuff. I grew up in a neighborhood with a lot of people speaking Italian, so there we go. In any event, thank you very much for inviting me to this program here today. And it's my honor and privilege to be here today to speak to you on behalf of the Father Nelligan Council of the Knights of Columbus. The Knights of Columbus are a Catholic men's organization founded in 1882 by Father Michael McGivney in New Haven, Connecticut. The founding principles of the order were charity and unity. The need for charity was obvious. The need for unity was as important then as it is now. However, unity also caused problems. Most of the new immigrants who were flooding into the country at the time seemed to be a strange bunch to all of the people we call to Anglo-Saxons and others like that. They spoke many different languages, including Italian, German, and Polish, among other languages, along with the Irish, who spoke a very different dialect of English. The other thing that was different was their religion. They were predominantly Roman Catholic, and Catholics had a leader that the worldwide church reported to in Rome, the Pope. So Catholics were called papists, and their loyalty to their new country was questioned. Fortunately, Christopher Columbus was celebrated as the discoverer of the New World. The fact that he was a very devout Catholic did not disqualify him from that distinction. So why did the new organization name itself after Christopher Columbus and not St. Francis of Assisi or St. Patrick or St. Stanislaus or some of the many other saints of the church? The choice of Christopher Columbus as patron of the Knights of Columbus helped to disperse the fear of seeing columns of Catholic men marching in their parades. The charity and unity principles of our order continue to this day. To these have been added fraternity and patriotism. Charity is still our leading principle, an example of which is the Coats for Kids program. For those of you who go to St. Bart's and St. Immaculate Heart of Mary, they're going to start this weekend. It's a program where we buy new clothing for little kids, boys and girls, and sometimes it's the first time they've had a new coat with the tags still in it. And so on this day, we celebrate the great work of Christopher Columbus, an Italian sea captain in service to the Spanish monarchy, who then had what was considered to be a crazy idea that the world is round. The settled science, as they would call it today, was that the world was flat. He surmised that the world was round and that if he traveled to the west, he would reach India. Well, he proved half his story correct because he knew that by going to the west, the world would be learned to be round. He learned, unfortunately, he did not land in India. He thought he was in India, and he called the indigenous people of these two continents Indians, a name that sticks to this day. Now, did some bad things follow from that? What happened? Yes, by today's standards, but how many people, if transported back 500 years, would have been any different? Sad to say, times have changed. Yes, Christopher Columbus was the first American, but there are many detractors of our history who wish to cancel Christopher Columbus by tearing down his statues and those other heroes of our history, while teaching hatred for the land of the free and the home of the brave. We are a great nation with faults, and that is true of all people and all nations. We, the people of this country, refer to ourselves as a melting pot of immigrants, a nation of many ethnic backgrounds, people looking for a better life for themselves and their families. I look around here today, and we have all something in common, and that is that our ancestors are from somewhere else. Many of you here are actually from somewhere else, predominantly from Italy in this particular audience, okay? And among the many millions who came here over the years, I know one of you speak about your parents and your grandparents and so on, were my parents. They each came here. They actually grew up about 10 miles apart from each other. They came unaccompanied at 17 years of age, okay? They moved to Detroit. They settled in Detroit. They loved Detroit, and they moved out this way for a whole lot of reasons I'm not going to go into. And they didn't get free food or free hotel space or anything else, as you may imagine. Neither one had gone beyond the 8th grade. I'm one of 6 sons, and 4 out of the 6 of us have advanced degrees. Now, I'm not bragging about anything, but this is truly the land of opportunity. They came here, and they were not disappointed. And so we realize in retrospect that Christopher Columbus was onto something. And thus we honor him here today for having been in the vanguard of a new civilization, a shining city on a hill. Thank you. God bless you all, and God bless America.
So a few more hellos. I'd like to say hello to Joe Bruno and Pauline. Joe Joe is a member of our Italian American Club forever. Joe was born in New Jersey, in Westfield, I believe, right, Joe? His father came from Mondazzi. Your mother too, or no? Okay. And I know his older brother was born in Mondazzi way, way back. So Joe is now very, very active at the Italian American Club. He does a lot for the club. He's always involved in making sure that the picnics and et cetera have enough food purchased and there's enough guys to do all the work at the club. So we really, really have a lot of respect and a lot of heart warmth for Joe for what he does. And I'd like to just give him a round of applause. And we have Fiora Di Francesco. Hi, Fiora. Fiora's mother and father, again, also were born and raised in Mondazzi and made their journey over here. And Dori Perucci, her father, came from Mondazzi. Was your mother Italian?
No, my grandfather and grandmother came
From Mondazzi, right? And of course, my wife, Nina Donatelli. Nina's mother and father were born and raised in Mondazzi, and they moved to Brazil. And that's where she was born. And she came here on a whim to try to learn how to speak English back in 1998. And it was at the 1998 unveiling of our Columbus Day Monument that I met her. And it's now history. We're 25 years together. We were actually married 24 years, and we have a 21-year-old son. So Columbus brought her here from a different continent as well. Very nice, right? So I would like to bring up the mayor of Scotch Plains, who just got a nice award. One thing I want to say about the mayor, prior to his little speech, come on up, is that he actually was in the march on Scotch Plains when we marched on to keep the monument in place. He met us at the Italian American Club, and he walked with us, and everybody had something to say, and hence our statue is still here. So I'd like to present Josh Lusardo, Mayor of Scotch Plains. Thank you.
Good morning. On this rainy Saturday, thank you very much for my pin. I'm honored. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, fellow citizens, including, if I may share, each of my colleagues is with me in spirit. They all had a conflict today. Deputy Mayor Ellen Zimmerman, Councilwoman Elizabeth Stamler, Councilman Rock White, and Councilman Matt Adams. Our town manager, Al Mirabella, also Union County Commissioner, also had a conflict today and is with me here in spirit. I'd like to recognize Deputy Chief Selinger, who is here, and also former Mayor Al Smith, who's here as well. And Al, if you'll remind me, I think the vote was 5-0 to keep that statue several years ago. I'm so glad the issue's come up again and again today. Our Columbus Day ceremony is one of Scotch Plains' oldest annual traditions and one that has been observed in our country for more than 100 years. On behalf of the entire governing body, I thank SBF Unico and Unico National, the Scotch Plains Italian American Club, the Knights of Columbus, for sponsoring and organizing today's wonderful program. All of you that helped make the sandwiches, I thank you as well, and I look forward to trying them after the program is finished. I also want to thank Tom Donatelli, who clearly has put a lot of time into preparing for this program. He wanted it to be so special, and he gives back to the town in so many ways. So thank you, Tom. This holiday provides us with an opportunity to reflect on Columbus's legacy, his and his crew's bravery as they voyaged across the ocean, and how that journey more than 500 years ago impacted the course of history. They sailed seeking a westward route to Asia and discovered a new world, the Americas. I don't think many people here today would voluntarily embark on ships made in the late 1400s for a voyage across the sea, but Columbus and his men did just that. The voyage was a remarkable feat of bravery, courage, navigation, exploration, and there is no doubt our world today owes a debt to those brave sailors. Today we live in a far different world, and I think it's altogether proper that while we honor Columbus, we pause, we acknowledge the profound consequences that voyage had on those who lived in the Americas long before Columbus's arrival. The encounter between the Old World and the New World brought about changes that still affect us today. So Columbus Day is a celebration about discovery and bravery, and it's also an opportunity for reflection and learning. Each year on Columbus Day, I also think of the history of our town, especially the history over the past 100 years or so, and how each of you and your parents and your grandparents and your great-grandparents, how much they did for our township. I've come to learn that you and your ancestors essentially built the town that we know, our roads, many homes. Your ancestors served the town as firefighters, police officers, members of the town council. Italians who immigrated to America and settled in Scotch Plains transformed our town by their hard work, their sweat, and their service. Italians made Scotch Plains into the town they dreamed small towns in America would be. We are all very lucky that they did. And for all these reasons, I extend best wishes and a very happy Columbus Day. Thank you.
Okay, here comes the time. I want to introduce the essay winners. We have Alina Nizzardo and Dominic Saliola. So, she's going to come up. Alina is a student at Terrell Middle. What grade are you in, Alina? She's a fifth grader at Terrell Middle School. And she's here to tell her story about how her family came here from Italy.
I am proud of Italian American. My grandparents, aunts, and uncles came to America in December 1966. It is a long, cold journey on the ship. They came to America. They stayed with great-grandparents, great-aunts, and great-uncles who have been here since the 1950s. When I arrived in New York, they were very excited to see the Statue of Liberty. It was a sign to reach their new home and their new life they will make here. My grandfather came to America in 1910. He was very young. His parents later passed away, and he had to go to Italy. As he grew up and survived, in 1953 he came back to America on a ship called Andrea Doria, which sank. It was called collided with another ship. He owned his business with Scotch Plains called Nick's Iron Works, where he made his railings. My grandfather was a security guard for Bell Labs, and he also worked with masons. My grandfather worked as well with extra money to support his family. My grandmother stayed at home, Mom, who had 7 children as they grew up older. My grandmother worked at Kohl's department store. They had many traditions: homemade pasta, canning tomato sauce, making sausage, and homemade wine. My grandmother passed away in 2010. My grandfather passed away 1 month after I was born, on my original due date. My original due date was November 13th. I was born 10-11-12. My parents tell me I was born a month early so he could meet his last grandchild, number 12. We still get together at their house, owned by Aunt now. For Friday's dinner, we have pasta and meatballs, and we have a huge Christmas Eve dinner there. We serve pasta, fish, and Santa visits as well and gives us gifts. My heritage is all about traditions and my family. We have a very big family with many cousins who spend a lot of time together. We love cheering Italian national soccer team. Italians are hard workers and passionate. I look forward to continued traditions my family has taught me to this day. Aunts and uncles and dads still make homemade wine, sausage, and partake in Scotch plains as well. We call it Tomato Day. Viva Italia!
Wow, that was great. It's great to see how some families still stick to their traditions and how they were brought up and make sure that the children learn what the parents knew and the grandparents knew. And Blue Blood says nothing on the Nazzardo family, that's for sure. Blue Blood says Sunday afternoon dinners. I think the Nazzardo says everyday dinners with each other. If you could, you would, right? So I'd like to bring up Dominic Saliola. Dominic. So what grade are you in?
Sixth.
You're in sixth grade at Terrell Middle, okay. This is Dominic's story about how his family came here from Italy.
My Italian heritage is very important to me. It comes from my relatives from Italy and the stories I know about them. My first family member to arrive from Italy is Antonio Duretto. He is my dad's grandfather on his mother's side. That is how both my dad and me get our middle name, Anthony. He sailed to America on a boat called the Berlin in 1914. My great-grandfather Antonio had no money when he came to America. All he had was the name and address of a friend who agreed to sponsor him. However, the friend had moved when Antonio docked in America. He had no place to stay, so he had to sleep in Central Park in the center of New York City until he found where his friend had moved to. Antonio worked as a tailor for 10 cents an hour. Whenever he ran out of money, he would sell a gold pocket watch he had brought with him from Italy to a pawn shop to get money to live on. When he saved up enough money, he would go and buy the watch back again. Eventually, my great-grandfather joined the U.S. Army to fight in World War I so that he could get his American citizenship. He traveled back and forth from America and Italy for many years before the family fully settled in Italy. While still in Italy, my grandma Maria and her younger sister Ida and her family were still living in a farm in Abruzzo near Pescara. They had olive trees and used to pick and sell olive oil. They had to get their water from a well by filling jugs and carrying them on their head. My grandma also had to take care of pigs and a goat. My great aunt Ida did not like these chores, so my grandma, who was 8 years older, often did them for her. My grandma told us once that she had pushed her sister Ida in the mud for being lazy, even though she was only 6 years old and my grandma was 14. During World War II, my grandma's family were forced to house and feed the German soldiers who occupied their town. After World War II had ended, my great-grandma Maria, my great-aunt Ida, and the rest of the family still living in Italy came over to America on the boat called the Saturna in 1947. They ate loaves of bread they carried in bags with them. They lived on 116th Street and First Avenue. Then they moved to Queens. My grandma had a big garden with grapes and peach trees in the backyard. One funny story is that my grandma and her family went shopping for the first time. They saw a pineapple and they brought it home. They used it for decoration for the table. They didn't know that you could eat it. My grandpa Pasquale and his father Domenico came to America in 1950. They settled in Scotch Plains like a lot of people from the province of Abruzzo and Molise, because they knew people living there. Me and my dad get our first name from Domenico, and my brother gets his middle name from our grandpa. I'm proud to be a fourth-generation Scotch Plains resident. Back in Italy, my grandpa was once the mayor of his hometown, Pietracupa in Molise. Here in America, he was an engineer working in New York City. He was a draftsman, and we have drawings of buildings, bridges, and roads that his company built in New York City, including the old Yankee Stadium. My dad has a drawing of the Middle Neck Road Bridge design with my grandpa's handwriting on it. While me and my brother have not been to Italy yet, we have a lot of family traditions like cooking for the holidays that show our Italian heritage. Here are a few of them. During Thanksgiving, me, my mom, and my brother make homemade manigot. Thanksgiving is hosted in our house. My grandma and grandpa used to make homemade wine for Thanksgiving and store it in old Coke bottles. One time, my dad's younger cousin, Frankie, went to pour himself Coke, but instead it was wine. He said this tastes funny, and the family laughed. For Christmas, we make lots of Christmas cookies. The night of the 25th, we get together at my dad's cousins, Sandra and Joe's apartment. My great-aunt Ida makes pizzelles for the holidays and family events. They are flat, crispy cookies that you bake in a special iron and sprinkle with powdered sugar. She also makes a type of homemade cheese. She uses a gallon of milk, salt, and junket tablets. He makes it using a basket of holes in it. It's very good. On regular days, me, my mom, and brother sometimes make homemade pasta from scratch, using flour, eggs to make the dough. Make a mound of flour and salt and beat eggs in it and push flour from the side. We have a kitchen mixer tool that we use to make linguine and flat pasta that we use to cut into shapes and boil. My mom learned how to do this from my grandma Maria, who used to do it all by hand with a knife. Learning Italian is very important to me. At Tell Middle School, I am learning Italian so that I can understand my family members who are still in Italy when we visit them. This past summer, my dad's cousin from Rome, Mara, came to visit with his wife and children. The children's names are Tay and Emilio. They don't speak English, but I understood some of their Italian words. We will go visit them when we go to Italy, and we'll learn more about our Italian heritage.
Wow, Dominic. You know, if you stick with it, you're going to take over for me one of these days over here. Very well done. Thank you. So Dominic's mom and dad are both members of the Scotch Plains family with Unico, and relatively new members, but we welcome you guys aboard. Michelle does a lot of other good things in Scotch Plains. She helps out some of our committees and et cetera. Very, very giving people. So one word about, I understand you take Italian, right? And do you take Italian too? You don't take it, what language do you take? Oh, you're doing 3, because you're only in 5th grade now, right? So when I was in high school, we didn't have languages in middle school or elementary school. But when I was in high school, they offered 3 languages in Scotch Plains. They offered German, Spanish, and French. And it goes back probably to the days when the Nazardo girls were young. We had a few people, I think Laura Swiderski may have been one of them. That's Ralph's aunt, Laura, right? Ralph Checchio's aunt. They went on a rampage with the Board of Education in some respect, and they got them to take German out of the school system and put Italian into it now. So now we do have Italian as an option for kids, and a lot of kids take Italian, even though they're not Italian. I see that, I mean, I know my son took Italian, and there was a lot of the kids that were not Italian kids taking Italian. And I'm glad to see you are, and I hope so do you. And eventually, maybe you can learn how to really speak the real old language, right? Very good. So now I'd like to bring up another Unikin member, Joe Schiavo. He's going to introduce his mother, and she's going to teach us how to cook Italian style.
Put these here. All right, we'll have to pull this down a little. Hi, everyone, and thanks for listening to us. I want to introduce my mom, Helen Schiavo.
Hi.
She's going to talk about how meals were with her family and how we celebrated it all together and the different kinds of foods that we had. And hopefully it sparks sort of a memory in some of you all about, you know, the foods and the celebrations that you have with your family. And then if we have some time, we want to talk about the things that we did back then, and how, like, I know, like, so I'm mom's first generation and I'm second. So, you know, as the third and fourth generations start to come in the country, you know, they meet different people, marry different cultures. So to me, it's important, and to mom as well, that we kind of tell these stories. So we want to tell a story or two about that as well. So let me, not yet, Ava, later. So that's fourth generation. So mom's parents were Nicola and Victoria Dominiani, and they immigrated from Italy in the early 1900s. They're from the town of Sant'Andrea in the province of Catanzaro in the region of Calabria. Mom was born in Elkland, Pennsylvania, and moved at an early age to Bedford-Stuyvesant in Brooklyn. You know, they followed family and paisans then, which, you know, we sort of don't do now, the other generations. And she moved there, she met her husband there of 65, and they're married 65 years. There's my dad, Joe. He's married 65 years. God bless them. So then her parents bought a house in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, again following the paisans when she was 16 years old. And then mom and dad bought a home a few blocks away, and they raised myself, my brother, and my sister. Mom balanced her time raising us and then helping her husband develop and grow his business in Lower Manhattan. So had to balance a lot of things. And, you know, like most of us, it was hard. You know, we didn't get free food and free housing like someone mentioned. But, you know, they did well. And well enough that all their children and grandchildren went to college and went on to accomplish, you know, what their vision was. Mom and dad are proud grandparents of 5 grandchildren, 3 great-grandchildren, and one on the way anytime now soon. And they live in Monroe Township, New Jersey. Okay, Mom, why don't you talk about...
The holiday.
Yeah, all right. Go ahead.
What should I say?
Well, just talk about how we had it at Grandma's house.
When we had holidays, I'll never forget them because we'd all get together at my mom's house. And she made everything, but she did them in the morning, not the day before. God forbid anything was done the day before. And we had antipasto, the hot and the cold, and she'd make her rice balls, which we loved. but they weren't filled. They were just rice balls. You remember them, huh? They were delicious hot right out of the frying pan. Then we'd have ravioli or lasagna, either of the two, and the meat from the gravy. Then that wasn't enough. She had a roast and a salad, and she'd go, "You aren't eating, but how much could we eat?" And then we'd have our desserts, and it was great then. But that was what it was like.
So why don't you talk about the rice balls and how they ate them hot?
The rice balls, my son knows, he remembers, because they'd eat them out of the frying pan, not when they got to the table. My husband was the same way. And they'd say, "No, they taste good out of the frying pan." What else?
Talk about how you made ravioli.
Ravioli, my mother would call me in the morning. I was the one that lived close by. And she would go, "It's 7 o'clock, where are you?" And I'd go, "Ma, I have 3 kids. It's 7 o'clock, where are you?" And I'd have to beat it over there. And we'd make ravioli early in the morning because by 1 o'clock you sat down and you ate dinner. And when she made lasagna, it was the same way all the time. But that was her.
Talk about the ravioli, how you rolled
The
them.
ravioli, we would roll them in the morning, right? And my mother used a rolling pin, but hers was narrower. Hers was a broom handle that my father made for her.
So Mom graduated and Dad made her this. So she uses this.
Yeah,
And then did she use the coffee cup?
she used it, a coffee cup. That was the measurement, right? You remember.
So it's funny because I know my kids go, like, "Grandma, there's this machine that, rolls the dough and cuts and she's like, "What are you talking about?" So yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, that was great, but those were the days we really remember.
Talk about the desserts.
The desserts, we had so many of them. We were 3 girls, and we all made something special. But my mother made her own desserts also. Like for New Year, for Easter, she made the grain pie, and she called them gutsupi, but they were, I don't know how she formed them. She formed them like birds and everything, but we enjoyed them, but if you didn't grow up on them, you really didn't care for them because they were dry. But that was that. What else?
Talk about all the desserts that you make. Mom's a great cook, and her desserts are like to die for. So talk about some of your desserts.
What did,
The
like,
pizzelles, how you made them.
I made pizzelles. Yeah, I make, we call them 7 layers. This is the
pizzelles.
old pizzelle machine.
Yeah. And she used to do it one at a time, and it would take her all day.
Yeah, now I use the electric one, so it's much easier. What else?
So my brother and sister and I always cherished all the desserts and cookies. She made pizzelles, 7 layers, pignolis, strufoli, zeppoli. So, a couple of years back, I said, "Mom, you got to slow down, and just bake a couple." So what she'll do is she'll call us and say, "Let me know what the kids want. I'm cooking, 4 desserts." So right away what I do is, when I hang up with my mom, I call my kids and says, "You better call Grandma right away and tell her what you want because your cousins are going to be calling her as well." All right, so you want to talk about the beans and escargot story?
If you want to.
Yeah, let's do that one because Ava's here. Okay. All right, so I now we want to talk about a story about, how it was back then and some of the meals that my mom cooked and how, we try to make sure, like, they're good stories for the 3rd and 4th generations. And we have actually the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th generation here in the audience. So just talk about the beans and escargot now.
I made beans and escargot. My kids never cared for them. but they care for them now. They'll ask me, when are you making beans and escarole? And it's funny, I can't find escarole in the supermarket. Yeah. Before you used to find it, now you don't find
We
it.
have to grow it.
And Mom, when are you making it? Well, one day we were all at a restaurant, and the little one was with us, and she just grabbed the spoon out of my daughter's hand, and she started eating the beans and the macaroni and the escarole, and she left the broth. But it was funny that a little one like that, today the kids will eat it probably, but then
So that was
the
like
kids didn't care for
So
it.
to me, that was one of those moments that, again, the generational story. I took a picture, I sent it around to brothers and sisters and all, and her dad and everybody, and I says, "Hey, what is Ava eating?" And right away, her father comes back and says, "Beans and escarole. When's Grandma going to make it again?" So, all right, then let's do. So we'll go to the end now.
You want to talk about the fig tree?
No, I think that's
That's
enough.
it.
Yeah, well,
That
so,
was
so
it.
wait. All right, so one last thing, Mom, the people, I want to kind of take a little poll because Mom's got something special for them. So, the people, the students that did the essays, can you raise your hand?
Give over here.
Okay. Is there any high school students here from any of the clubs?
No. there's
Okay.
not.
And then all the people that were up here and spoke, what Mom has is she made 7-layer cookies. All right? So it's just for them, because we don't have enough. And then if not, okay. So I hope, you enjoyed our story. And, again, you could just reflect on that for the future generations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm starting to get hungry for lunch now. So we've been talking about the Nizzardos a lot today, so I want to introduce Marcelo Nizzardo. He is Alina's father, okay? So now, although Marcelo was born and raised in Scotch Plains as an American kid, he was raised by Italian immigrant parents, aunts, and uncles. He grew up learning and living the Italian traditions firsthand. His family jarred tomatoes together, made sausage, or they do to this day. They make sausage together, make supersized prosciutto, Italian pastries, homemade pasta. They dig and grow their own gardens. And most importantly, they make wine together. So I want to introduce Marcelo Nizzardo, and he's going to tell us a few of his family secrets about winemaking.
Thank you. Buongiorno, good morning, my fellow Italian Americans and all present here today. Everybody's saying buongiorno. I'm going to greet you the way my grandfather used to do in Mondazolese. Hey, Walio! I am Marcello Nizzardo, a longtime resident of Scotch Plains and first-generation Italian American. My parents, Michele and Nicolina Nizzardo, immigrated from Italy to the United States in December of 1966. My father was born and raised in Agnone in the province of Molise, and my mother in Montazzoli in the region of Abruzzo. For any newer residents of the community and guests here today, Montazzoli is a sister city of Scotch Plains. Montazzolese helped build this town. My parents brought with them their Italian traditions and instilled them in all 7 of their children. Although my parents are no longer here today, we siblings still continue to carry on all their traditions. To mention a few, we make our own sauce, sausage, soppressata, and wine. If you're a new resident in Scotch Plains, there's a schedule we follow. In the spring, we eat lamb. In the summer, we jar tomato sauce. In the fall, we make wine. In the winter, we make sausage and other cured meats. The only rule you need to know, and this is the golden rule, sorry, Mischiavo, it's called sauce, not gravy. as much as I love all of these, my passion is homemade winemaking. My father made homemade wine back in Italy, but after arriving in the U.S., he didn't continue the tradition right away. Providing for his grown family, working full-time night shift, taking on side jobs, tending to his approximately 200-foot garden were his primary concern. When I was in my mid-20s, my dad was retired, and I thought it would be a great time to ask if he would consider making our homemade wine like he did back in the old country. He agreed, and it was a great idea, and a good time to restart this great tradition. We got together with my cousins, Camillo Angelozzi, who is Columbus of Scotch Plains, Alphonse Cecchio, and Giannicola Cedamele, and made our first batch of homemade wine with them. A few years later, my dad and I began making wine together in his own garage. My dad's choice of grapes were Merlot. We continued to make Merlot, even some Zinfandel and Chardonnay up until he passed in 2012. I continued the tradition along with my older brother, Giuseppe, or Joe Nizzardo, my brother-in-law, Al Salinger. In 2017, we changed and started to make Petit Syrah and Pinot Grigio. Now let me get into the winemaking process. Winemaking is a true labor of love. They told me I don't have to give away any of my secrets today, but I'm going to let you in on it. It's called passion and pride. It's a process that involves patience and at times on-the-fly decision-making. As a home winemaker, or garagista as they were sometimes called in the wine community, we cannot predict what conditions the grapes are in, and we acquire them. This is why we have to trust the person or the company that we purchase the grapes from. We hope to have the best amount of sugar and ripeness. I always check the skin, flesh, and seed of the grape to make sure there's no mold growth, infections, or any rots on the grapes. This is where I give a shout out to my good friend, George Featherman of Grape Expectations in Bridgewater, and his entire staff. He is my current and always will be my go-to guy for grapes. First day of winemaking is the destemming process. This is where we use a destemming machine to remove the stems lightly and crush the grapes into a proper vat or tub. After destemming, we have our must in the vat, and this is where we start to take certain measurements like Brix, which is the measurement of sugar, acidity, and total acids. We add a precise amount of potassium metabisulfite just to eradicate any bacteria that can prevent fermentation to take place or give impurities to the must. 24 hours later is when we inoculate our must and add our yeast. I do a lot of research on yeast and yeast properties every year to make sure I get the types of flavors, smell, mouthfeel I want out of the wine. I study this so much, my wife once told me, if your mom saw you studying this wine, yeast, the intensity you have, she'd beat you with her slipper for not studying in school. That's the truth. There are many strains for red, whites. Every year I try different strains until I find what I like for the type of wine or grape I use. Now for the next 7 to 10 days, the wine must ferments. This is where the magic and the beauty comes in. This is where the yeast eats the sugar and turns the must into alcohol. Then the grape skins will rise to the top and form a cap. Every day, about 4 to 5 times a day, I get out there and punch the cap with a specific tool to mix the grapes. This adds more color, gets the tannins in the wine, and gives you the wine's smooth flavors. The smell while I do this is so good. It smells like cherries and candy apple. It's absolutely amazing. When the wine gets to a certain Brix or sugar is when the grapes are ready to be pressed. My dad could just tell by looking at it, it was ready to be pressed. I was never that good. That's why I measure. Basically removing the skins into the wine, press to get everything out of them. So I get all the goodness. After the press, we let the wine ferment in a vat for some time to let the leaves or the grape particles fall to the bottom. Then it's ready to sit and age in a stainless steel tank. But that's not the end. After a few weeks, we rack the wine to get more lees out of it, or clean the wine, if you will. I am tending to the wine at least 3 to 4 days a week, often to get certain measurements or get a little taste, make sure the wine is stable. After a few months of aging, we filter and bottle. By that time, we're getting ready to make our next batch. My dad was our biggest critic of wine, and without him here, I don't have much needed suggestions for improvement. Therefore, I did some research and found that several homemade winemaking competitions have professional sommeliers as judges, and they ultimately provide suggestions and feedback. In 2021, I decided to enter Winemakers Magazine International competition for that reason. Their competition is obviously with all different countries, South American countries, Australia, Europe, Canada. And not only did I receive suggestions and feedback, our Pinot Grigio was awarded a bronze medal. Later that year, thank you. Later that year, I entered Cellar Masters Amateur Wine Competition. The Cellar Masters Club is the oldest winemaking club in the country, based in California. Again, I received feedback, but this time our Pinot Grigio was awarded a silver and our Petit Syrah was awarded a bronze medal. I took their feedback along with their suggestions and some of my own ideas. I tweaked my recipe for our 2022 batch. I most recently entered our 2021 and 2022 Petit Syrah in the Winemakers International Competition, and I'm proud to announce it was awarded a gold medal, and our 2021 was awarded silver. Thank you. My brother Joe and my brother-in-law Al and I continue to keep this tradition going as we're currently working on our batch of 2023 Petit Syrah, Cabernet Franc, and Pinot Grigio. We know in our hearts that our dad is proud, if you're only here to see these medals and accomplishments. I love winemaking so much. If I could do this for a full-time living, it would be a dream come true. So if you know anyone hiring, give them a call. Mr. Cecchio, if you can call the mob if they know anybody. Thank you to the Scotch Plains fan with Unico for inviting me and the Italian American Club to share my story and passion with you. Thank you to the mayor and town council for acknowledging our Italian heritage. Thank you to my wife, Vanessa, my kids, Evan and Alina, for supporting and helping my winemaking tradition. Thank you to my friends and families for not only supporting my passion, but for drinking the wine and bringing me the empty bottles for a refill. They never bring me full bottles, just empty bottles. I'm a very proud Italian American and also a proud member of the Scotch Plains Italian American Club. I know that my family and I will never forget our roots. Thank you. Salute.
Very well done. I just want to point out something that you probably don't know. One of the first de-stemming machine that came to Scotch Plains came here in 1969 on a container from Italy, and it was brought here by my father, Joe Donatelli. And that machine probably visited every single Italian's homes that had a pickup truck that could pick it up in September and October back in those years. And to this day, that machine still runs, and me and my cousins made 40 boxes. We crushed 40 boxes of grapes. We won't say what yet, you know. We did 40 boxes this year of crushed grapes. And we continue to put that machine around the town to people who don't have the opportunity to have their own machine. But it was back in the years ago when Camilo and Alphonse Cecchio used to borrow that machine as well. At one point, the machine was about to break down and the motor was detached from the base. And of course, Alphonse's grandfather was Papa Nick, the iron worker, and he took that machine to Papa Nick's shop and he welded the plate and he got that machine running again so that everybody could borrow it. So it still goes back to Italian tradition, Italian community, and everybody works together for the love of winemaking. So I want to introduce Romano Del Royo. He's going to have a few words to say about the Italian American Club.
Good morning, and my name, you heard, Romano Del Royo. I was president of the club a few years, and I'm still there, and I'm still there to stay. But the Italian American Club is not a club that think about themselves. We do a lot of charities, we do a lot of different things that to help other people. And to fundraise, we use a pig roast, a couple of them. Otherwise, the club would be no club. And also, we got to thank you, Joe Bruno and Marco Ruggeri, that take charge for the rental, which brings in a big chunk of money. And they do a lot of charity, money charity. The club, prize, some of them, if they qualified for to be tax exempt, we do full rental, free. And we keep on going like this, and so far we're doing so good. Now we're talking about a little bit of Christopher Colombo. Christopher Colombo, I don't know how many of you knows, he had the second attempt to come to the United States, to come to a different country, different continent. The first time yourself in 10 days, and after 10 days, went up in Italy again. I don't know how many of you knows about this. I guess no answers. Everybody knows. So the second time, I get to the pre-boat to the Nina, La Pinta, and Santa Maria, and here it goes, sail again. It went up to be in the United States. The United States is a country of freedom. It's a country of opportunity. It's a country that everybody can make something for themselves. All depend on how hard you want to work. Now, I came in this country the first time, 1968, and I went to the American Embassy several times, but I wanted to stay here because I found my girlfriend at that time, which we knew each other back home. And after that, they said, no, you got to go back. You cannot stay here. And next time, instead they make a visa for three weeks, make it there for 3 months. And time we get married, I never go back because she was citizen already. Well, I bought them so much. And the guy said, well, this time you got to go back. This is your passport. You got to go back. We didn't understand the Christmas I'm supposed to come back again. I got to the airport, my luggage went, and I was right at the door of the airplane. I heard a tap on my shoulder. The customer guy back again. Oh, we got to see your passport. We got something wrong with passport. He opened my passport, there's 3 numbers. And I said, what are those 3 numbers? This is that you try to violate the United States immigration law. You cannot go back to the United States for 3 years as a visitor. Well, she had to come to Canada. We got married in Canada. After we got married, I said, we have no money. I had no money. It was just a few months that I was there. I said, for honeymoon, we go to Niagara Falls. We went to Niagara Falls. We visited the Canadian site. And then I said, well, let's try to go to the United States. And when he got there, they made open my passport. Said, She could go back and forth every time she wanted me. You're not going to put your feet to the United States. And that's it. So we couldn't come back. She was suspended for me, and then I came back, and I settled in Scotch Plains. Settled in Scotch Plains in 1969. I came over here. Then I never moved. But go back a little bit. My father was over here from 1911 to 1921. And he was a worker with Weldon. And those times it was a barba gelada. I don't know how many of you know it's a barba gelada. And they were crushing stone with the mallet. It was real hard work. And when I told him I was going to come to the United States, he said, you're crazy because I suffered. And listen to his story. I could understand that you suffered over here, but he didn't understand that the United States had changed dramatically from 1921 to 1969. There was a lot of changes. So I didn't listen to nobody, so I went from Switzerland, where I was working, back to Canada. I spent almost 2 years in Canada, then I came to this country. I'm glad that I'll be here. I created my family over here. I have 3 kids, 8 grandkids, and I love them all. And all this happened because you got to think about Christopher Colombo, that he had the courage to cross the Atlantic and search for different continents until he got to the United States. And when he got to the United States, of course, every one of us come after that, and every one of us created a family over here. A lot of people went to big businesses, a lot of people did good life. Well, when I came to this country, the first year or 2, I went to Plainfield, the night school, to have a jump start in the language. There was a teacher over here, I will never forget her name. She said, you guys, you came to this country, or you don't find money. You find it WRK, and they stand for work. You work, you can make something for yourself. If you don't, you stay just where you are, maybe getting worse. So again, got to say thank you to Christopher Colombo that brought us over here. So all of us look like everyone else are doing well, and that's the best thing that could ever happen to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Romano. And there's a lot of people in this town, in this country, that truly did come here. I know we have a lot of people that have their parents, their grandparents, et cetera, but we do have a lot of first-handers that have come here and still have their own story. So last year, we lost one of our beloved members of our community, Carmen Ponzio. And I'd just like to take another moment. I know we talked about him last year and et cetera. I'd like to take another moment to just bow our heads for Carmen. And I'd like to bring up Andrew, his son, to have, I think he wants to say a couple words about Carmen. Thank you. Andrew? Mark, if you don't mind, would you mind bringing the wreath up here to the front?
How you doing? I'm Andrew Ponzio, and my father was Carmen Ponzio. And, my great-grandfather started our business in town. We've been there for 110 years this year, and we're still going, still operating the same type of materials, flowers and landscaping, firewood. And, just looking back, to touch on what Romano said with Christopher Columbus coming here, that opened up great business opportunities, great commerce. And, I'm thankful for that being said, him coming here, and that enabled my great-grandparents to come here, and many of the relatives in this room and their, predecessors coming here to, continue on business, continue on commerce, bring new materials to new areas. I mean, think of all the things they brought back to Italy and all the raw materials that, and different business ideas that came about. And I think that's what really, built our town today. And it's going to continue tomorrow with all our new changes, in town. I mean, I look around and I see all the old timers that were my parents' friends or my grandparents' friends that, laid the bricks and the foundations to build this town. And then I look around and say, well, here we're a new generation, and everybody's saying where it's going, and, there's different plans, but I think it's all going to be for the better to, uplift the community and keep it continuing on for the future and the younger generations. But I think we really all go back to, how it started is, the courage and the risks that he took, Christopher Columbus, to get on the boat and take the chance and say, I'll do it. And I think in business, for me, that means, every day I get up, I say, all right, I'll take the job. It's a challenge. I might not do it right. I might not, might not make $1. You might make $1. You never know. But you have to take the chance. And to me, I try to teach that to all my young guys that work for me, and really encourage, you got to get out there. You got to have some kind of hero. You got to have people that came before you that you can really look up to. And, for Italians, we look up to Christopher Columbus because he really paved the way for us. So I appreciate it, and appreciate the fact that I'm still in business and we're still going. And, give credit to my father and my grandfather and great-grandfather for all those years of labor and hard work, and watching them and them teaching me, and all the guys from the Italian American Club, and that, always taught me along the way different things. And I really appreciate all the things I learned. Thank you.
So we'd like to thank the Ponzio family for many, many years of service, and always having the wreaths for Memorial Day, for Columbus Day, for all the different ceremonies, Veterans Day. And thank you guys so much for continuing that, even though Carmen isn't here anymore. And we look forward to calling you up every time we need them. Okay, so stick around. So anyway, this comes to the conclusion of our ceremony, and I'd like to just say thank you to Jeff Blank and the Columbus State Committee, Matt Marino, Daniela for helping in the background and all that, Daniela Nazardo. Nina did a lot. Fiora, thank you for helping with the sandwiches. Joe Bruno. Romano was cutting bread last night, so everybody is welcome. We have sandwiches, Italian sandwiches that we made last night. So I'd like to bring up Father Matt and for a few closing words. Thank you.
how wonderful it's been to listen to all of these amazing stories, how to cook, how to make wine. And I have to share with you another story. A week ago, I learned a new term, IBA, Italian by Association. And so I have to say once again, I got here to town 2 years ago as a deacon, now serving as a priest for a little over a year. And I have to say, more and more people are asking me, are you Italian? I'm like, no. However, if I could be any other culture, heritage in the world, it would be Italian. Not just because of the amazing food, but because of what you bring to this town, what you bring to the world, which is warmth and values and virtues and faith. And so, my friends, I think that's what we've really been doing here this morning, is celebrating the gifts that the Italian culture has brought to this country. And what do we need to keep doing? We need to keep bringing that to the fore, bringing that to the next generation, so that we can build upon these beautiful qualities that this country is built upon. And so, in gratitude to Almighty God, we pray together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. And we ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. God bless all of you. Take care.
Thank you. And thank you, Angelo, for all the work you did, Angelo Usaferi, for doing the filming of this. And I think we're going to, anyway, thank you again, Angelo. Okay. Thank you, and thank everybody for coming. Thank you very much.